There is a hidden dynamic happening for a lot of guys in relationship who were raised to be nice, were raised to care for the women in their lives, the people in their lives. Guys who you might call a nice guy. Guys who've been called a good guy. And oftentimes what happens when they get into the right relationship is that those strategies that made them nice, that made other people drawn to them, stop working quite so well. And when you're in a romantic partnership and you've prided yourself on being able to hold space, especially for the women in your life, and for some reason it doesn't seem to be working in the relationship that you're in, a lot of guys get really frustrated. They blame her for being overly emotional when she's upset. But there is often a hidden pattern happening for these men, and that's what I want to talk about in the podcast today. How you can, if you have been raised to be the nice guy, the good guy, learn to be there for her in a way that is more meaningful and more effective. Learn to be there for her in the ways that you want to be, to really show up for her by looking in the mirror and understanding what's really happening when you're holding space and doing your best and it doesn't seem to be enough. Stay with me. This is Reclaiming the Gentleman. I'm Dave Lashansky. So I've shared a lot of stories on this podcast about growing up with this persona of the nice guy, the good guy. It was an identity I held on to, I clung to probably into my mid-20s. And by that time, I'd been dating this woman who I loved more than anything, who made me crazy, but who didn't seem to respond the way other people in my life had responded up to that point. Because when she was upset, and I was trying everything I knew to do to help her, it only seemed to make things worse. For years, I suffered in this dynamic, fearing every time she was upset that I wasn't going to be able to help, that I wasn't good enough for her. Because nothing I seemed to do actually worked. And for years, I blamed her. For years, I believed it was her inability to be consoled that was the problem. For years, I believed because she felt so intensely, that's why I wasn't able to help. And I believed that right up until the point when I started doing men's work, going to therapy regularly, learning about my own inability to be with dense emotions. Because while I could help other people till the cows come home, I could hold space for so much for other people. I couldn't hide what was actually happening when I was trying to, quote unquote, hold space for the most important person in my life. Because we were so close, because we were so dependent on each other, and I was so attached to getting to that feeling better moment, she could feel it. The stakes unconsciously felt so high to me that at any time I felt I was nearing my limit, my capacity to hold, I would panic. I would react defensively. And things would escalate. She'd be upset. She'd call me out on it, and I was so unconscious of the pattern. I was so unaware of the pattern that I felt betrayed. I felt so wronged. Because here I was doing my best to help, and she didn't seem to care. A lot of guys like me, guys who were raised to be nice and good, encounter this same dynamic in their relationship because we are not aware of the energy we're holding when we are quote unquote holding space. We're not aware of how absent it feels to have someone holding space for you who's really only attached to showing up as a good guy, to getting the brownie points, to getting the kudos. And that's a hard thing to recognize on your own. And that can be a tough pill to swallow too, if you're someone who's prided yourself on being able to support other people. Most men are drawn to that, to be of service. That character of nobility is so important to us. But many of us also learned these strategies of caring for other people, of caring for women especially, because it was how we were able to soothe ourselves as children. Because as children, we found ourselves in spaces where adults' unfiltered emotions were scary, maybe even dangerous. And before we recognized what we were consciously doing, we learned that soothing those heavy emotions, soothing those intense moments, not only earned us praise, but made us feel safe. And so unconsciously as adults, we start to enact the same pattern, where when the people we're closest to are struggling, are being consumed by emotion, that same panic sets in. And it's usually entirely unconscious. And if you're someone who recognizes yourself in this pattern, if you're someone who's prided yourself on being nice, being good, being there for other people, and it doesn't seem to work for your partner, this might be what's happening. And one of the ways you can tell, and this might sound too simple, but it is really the beginning, it is really the way to open the door, is when she's struggling, when she comes to you in need of support, in need of a container. Take a breath and check in with your body. What's happening? Is there a tightening that's there? Is there a panic that sets in? An anxiety? Are there thoughts about needing to prove yourself? About being up to the task? And as you're checking in about this, not judging what comes up, but just witnessing it, just observing what's there. None of it is wrong. The desire to help someone you love who's struggling is beautiful. It is incredibly masculine. And doing it from a place of panic, doing it from unconscious childhood wounding, won't work. And it doesn't have to be that way. One of the things I teach men in my free workshops, in this podcast, but also in my one-to-one coaching and my 21-day course, is how to navigate your internal landscape when she's suffering. How to navigate all of these unconscious wounds that play out in your relationship, that make her question whether you really care about her, and that keep you in this cycle of frustration. Because no matter what you do, you never feel like you're enough. This pattern is so common because most of us were raised by men who were terrified of emotion, who had no understanding of emotion. So we learned that being that emotional, that soft, that sensitive, that nice guy differentiated us, made the women in our lives feel safe and good in our presence. But there are ways to deepen that, to mature that, to bring an adult masculine presence to that literally transformed my relationship. Because when I did the work to see what was happening for me when my girlfriend was panicked, when I did the work to get underneath why I was reacting with such unconscious panic, she felt it. Because I'd integrated the wounds that were making me respond poorly, that were changing the energy with which I respond, the panic that was underneath it all. That work saved my relationship countless times. And I needed a group of men to do it. I needed my coaches and my therapists to do it. Because the number one thing holding most men back from doing this work is thinking that we have to do it alone, that we can do it alone. And it doesn't work that way. Start by noticing yourself, but have somewhere to reflect that. Have somewhere to process what's going on. Find a guide who can lead you into that part of your psyche, that part of your past, safely, lovingly, at the right speed. This process is one that will unfold in its own time, but it will only happen when you decide to do it. And the first part is taking responsibility for your part in the dynamic that's not working. And see what happens when you do. The miracles that can unfold in your relationship when you do this are more amazing than you can imagine right now. The closeness, the intimacy that we experienced, that we continue to deepen in as the work goes on, as I learn more about myself on this journey of life, this never-ending unfolding of self-awareness, self-knowledge, always amazes me, keeps the spark alive for us, and keeps us stepping toward each other in those moments when we really want to run. Imagine what that might be like for you. Thank you for listening to this episode of Reclaiming the Gentleman. I am hosting free workshops this month on letting love in, including on December 4th, the day this episode comes out. Letting Love In is a workshop all about beginning to do this work, beginning to see what it is that you might be able to change and deciding the kind of relationship, the kind of future you want to build with your own agency and power, tapping into it so that you can see it clearly. It is going to be a total blast. I'll be offering this workshop once more before we dig into the next round of Reclaiming the Gentleman, the 21-day journey for men who are ready to embark on this in a group and be supported along the way. I am so excited to begin this next round, and I would love for you to join me. If you're interested in signing up, or if you're with a partner who you think might benefit from this, you can go to davelashansky.com and sign up for the waitlist or the workshop. Trust that whatever patterns are showing up in your relationship are the invitation to whatever next evolution is best for you. The universe has your back. And if you need support in that, so do I. I am also offering one-to-one coaching for the first time in about a year. I have not opened my books for that in a long time. And so if you're looking for some more one-on-one support, direct action in your life or your relationship, you can reach out at dave@davelashansky.com or on Instagram at @Dave_Lashansky. Thank you again for your ears and your time. I'll be back in a week.